Hello and welcome to Rocky Mountain Rooftop, the Colorado Rockies affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Evan Lang, and with me, I am very excited to have Aaron Croom, Partner Services and Mascot Coordinator for the Rockies High A affiliate Spokane Indians. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Me too. It's Skyler, our other host, is usually the one who's doing a lot of these interviews just because he has the more free time to do them.
Mhm.
So I've been really excited for this because this is my first real one on our little network. So thank you so much
Awesome.
for being a part of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
No, hey, it's my first time being on your network too. So,
well, thank you. Hopefully this will be a good one. The Spokane Indians, the High A affiliate of the Rockies, they've been around for a long time, as far back as I think 1890. But became the Rockies affiliate in 2021. They've been the affiliates for a bunch of different teams, including the Texas Rangers twice, the Mariners, the Royals, the Padres, I believe, for about 10 years. So lots of history there. But Aaron, how did you come into the current position that you're in? So that's partner services and mascot coordinator.
great question. So, I have been with the Spokane Indians. I'm going on my 10th season. I started in 2014 as a game day employee. Um, the Spokane Indians, we hire anywhere between 275 and 350 seasonal employees every summer. When I started, we were in short ball, and so we only played 38 games. The game started in June, ended in early September, and it was a great summer gig between spring and fall semester at college. And the Spokane Indians, I think I saw a stat once that here in Spokane, one in every 10 families at some point in their life has worked for the Spokane Indians. Just we're a staple in the community, and so it's kind of natural. Like I'm not from Spokane originally. I'm actually from Houston, Texas, and I grew up in Texas. And I like to joke that in Texas we have Sonics like on every block. There's a Sonic on every single block, and it's kind of like a rite of initiation in high school down in Texas to work at Sonic. Same thing, and it's kind of same thing up here in Spokane. Is that so many people have worked for the Spokane Indians? That's kind of a rite of initiation for as a high schooler or a freshly out of high school freshman in college to work for the Spokane Indians.
Here in Colorado, that's probably Chipotle,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which
There's always one.
notably got its start here in Colorado and has spread to all parts of the United States. That's actually really cool, though, that it's such a pillar of the community up there in Spokane because it really is such a cool part of the Spokane community, not just for the people that live there, the people that come to the games, but one of my favorite things about the Spokane Indians is the outreach that they do with the local indigenous community in
Mhm.
the Spokane Nation up there. Um, they do, it was I think in like 2006, and correct me if I'm wrong there, when they started really
Mhm.
doing that outreach with the Spokane Nation, and since then it's really grown into a very cool and unique part of the team.
Mhm.
What is your favorite part, or what's your take on that partnership with the Spokane Nation?
Yeah, so in 1983, 84, our company was bought out by Brett Sports Entertainment. It's led by the Brett brothers. You'll probably, as baseball fans listen to this, you'll probably recognize George Brett, the Hall of Famer with the Kansas City Royals. He's part of a partnership group with Bobby Brett, Ken
Hmm.
Brett, and George Brett, and they own the Spokane Indians, the Spokane Chiefs, the Tri-City Dust Devils, and the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes down in California. And so when they purchased the team in the 80s, they immediately stopped using any Native imagery, Native American symbolism or slang. They just didn't feel like it was right. And so they just kind of stuck with what we call the SI logo. So it's kind of our classic vintage logo. It's just like an S with an I down the middle. It's very, very common in sports to see that kind of branding, especially like when you look at like 1940s and 50s Major League Baseball teams. Then around 2004, 2005, the conversations about our identity, our brand, our name. We're becoming more prevalent, not just internally in our organization, but also externally in our community and in sports. And so we were having serious discussions about whether, do we want to change our names? Do we want to change our brand? Do we want to change? Because the last thing we want to do is to copyright or infringe on, you know, an entire culture. And so we actually, one thing that we do here at the Indians is we love asking questions. We don't like to assume. We love to ask questions. And so we reached out to the Spokane Tribe of Indians, and we asked them, like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Like, before we move forward, what do you think about changing our name and our brand? And they came back to us, and they were immediately supportive. They said, we love the fact that you guys have our namesake and you guys represent us as a tribe. And we would love for you guys to continue with this branding, but we'd love to incorporate it more. And so in 2006, we moved from the SI branding into what we now call our Salish branding. So our Salish branding, if you look at our logo, the S in our logo is actually two trout tails, because the rainbow trout is one of the largest food sources of the Spokane tribe of Indians historically. And then as well, you'll also see in our branding, you'll see this feather that's right up here. This feather is part of their logo as well, their Spokane tribe of Indians logo. And then if you also look at the Salish language, so in 2006, when we transferred our branding to better represent the Spokane tribe of Indians, and now our partnership with them is fantastic. We love working with them. They love working with us. Everything that we do when it comes to branding and how we represent ourselves, we make sure that they are the first person to say, yes, we're okay with this. We meet with the Spokane Tribal Council twice a year. They come out to a Native American Heritage Night as well. We absolutely love supporting them and everything that they do. We love supporting Wellpennant High School. They're a high school out on the Spokane reservation. And the last 2 years, the Wellpennant boys have actually won the state championship, and we sponsored their way to the state championship. And just because it's like we take great pride in taking on their namesake. And so, like, if you come here to the Vista Stadium, and I think it's like in 2012. Like I said, we like to ask questions. We asked them, we said, hey, are we doing enough? Are we doing enough to represent you and to represent your culture? And so they said that their language, the Salish language, was dying. And at the time, I believe they only had a handful of tribal members that actually still spoke Salish, and it was a dying language. And so we incorporated the Salish language on all of our jerseys, on our home jerseys, our away jerseys. We incorporated it on all of our signage. And up until this point in history, Salish was not a written language. And so we worked with them. It was only spoken. We worked with them to create a written language so that we can better represent something that they felt needed more attention. And so we were actually the first professional sports team in North America to have our home branding, our native language in our main name on our jerseys and our scoreboard and our signs in Salish. And so it's a wonderful partnership. We love working with them. They're absolute delights. I've been able to meet with tribal council a couple of times, and they're just wonderful human beings. And we really do love working with them.
It's definitely a fantastic partnership, and the branding has become, I think, really iconic, where it avoids all of the like generic things that you see on a lot of indigenous themed sports teams that I think tend to attract a lot of the ire and lead to those name changes, like we saw with the Cleveland Guardians, like we saw with the Washington football team. And the fact that I've always thought this was tremendously cool of the Spokane Indians was incorporating all of that, and it looks really good too. The Salish jerseys look fantastic. I love all the outreach that's done on social media. I love the Learn Salish segments that are done on the Spokane Indians Twitter account. It's all really, really cool and done in such like an admirable and respectful, mutual, beneficial partnership. And so that's something that I really like that you guys do. It reminds me a lot of there's a high school here in Colorado. It's called the Arapahoe High School. And they work in a very similar way, very closely with the Arapahoe tribe.
Mhm.
which is one of the local tribes out in this area, where they're called the Arapaho Warriors, and they basically reached out and they spoke with the Arapaho tribe and was like, if you want to keep calling yourselves that, we're going to make some changes. And
Mhm.
so they adapted. It was, the original logo is more of like the generic Indian warrior head, and they
Mhm.
made it actually like an accurate depiction of what an Arapaho tribe warrior would look like. And they do
Cool.
also
Okay.
their outreach stuff, and I love seeing that done in other places. So I think it's just really, really cool.
Mhm. Yeah, it's something that we just take a lot of pride in, and we take pride in the fact that we are able to represent such a beautiful culture and beautiful peoples. We and it there are so many sports teams that there's just so many sports teams that could be doing it better, that could have done it better, over the last 20 years as they've approached marketing and branding. And what they could have done better is just simply to ask questions of, hey, like how can we represent you? Like I think like right now in sports, the two that kind of jump off the top of my head would be the Indianapolis Indians minor league baseball team, and then the Florida State Seminoles. They also do really, really great jobs at representing the native tribes and native cultures within their area in a way that makes it feel like they're representing, and that they get to represent that culture and that team, and it brings it to light in a way that's just really awesome.
Definitely, and I think it speaks very highly of the Spokane Indians organization for, how much of a bastion of how to do it right they are. Where I've had this conversation with friends, with coworkers, with
Mhm.
just general sports fans about, if you want to have that kind of theming, if you want to have that kind of branding, you need to do it right. And the first thing I always go to is look at how the Spokane Indians do it.
Yeah, I know like right now, there's been a couple of like New York Times and AP articles about it that have really delved into it. And we actually, there's our jerseys in the Baseball Hall of Fame, because the Baseball Hall of Fame wanted to recognize that our jersey was the first jersey with Native American language and imagery on it. And so it's just we're glad, like we are glad that there's been national notoriety and attention about it. But at the end of the day, we are fortunate and we are privileged to represent their culture. And if no one ever heard about us, if no one heard how we handled, the Spokane Indians branding with the Spokane Tribe of Indians, but we still did it right and no one heard about us, that'd be okay. Because like at the end of the day, if we just want to represent their tribe and we want to represent their culture, and we want to do it the right way.
That's fantastic. Aaron, my next sort of question for you, so the job is partner services and mascot coordinator. What would you say favorite part of the job?
So my favorite part of the job, I kind of skipped this at the beginning when you asked me how I got to this job, and um, so my favorite part of the job is I'm not just, a partner services coordinator. So what that kind of entails is I'm a direct point of contact for a lot of our sponsors. I work within our marketing and promotions, and like a lot of minor league people or minor league front office members, you wear multiple hats. You have multiple jobs, and so no one in our office has one singular job. We all have a couple, and that's which I love personally. I think I might be too spastic to have one singular job. Um, and so we all wear different hats. And but when it comes to being a mascot coordinator, what that looks like on a normal day to day is that I coordinate all of our mascot community events, community appearances. I coordinate our on-field entertainment, our promotions, and I help coordinate kind of just our mascot program in general. We have at for listeners right now, we don't just have one mascot; we have four. Um, and funny enough, my boss has told me that if he could have five mascots on each dugout, he would. And we've had to talk him back from that. But the fun thing about this is that especially in minor league sports, it gets a little bit different in major league, whether it's Major League Baseball or Major League Basketball, hockey, football. Most mascot coordinators aren't actually mascot performers. I am a mascot performer myself, as well as a coordinator. And so I actually started my journey, and I was a mascot in middle school. And I was a middle school mascot, and honestly, and I'll be honest here. And my wife's heard this story, so she'll get a chuckle at it. I was a dorky kid, and I noticed that the mascot hung out with cheerleaders, and so I'm like, hey, I want to be the mascot. That was my initial outreach, and then like the very first time I was in a mascot suit in middle school, I had the most awful time. It was dank, it was musty. I'm pretty sure it hadn't been worn in like 2 years, and whoever did never wore deodorant. And it was just, and I'm sitting there in this terrible costume. I can't see. I'm really hot, and I'm like, maybe this isn't for me. And it was at an assembly. Like in middle school, especially here in America, when there's those middle school assemblies where they do like, okay, guys, we're going to do a little activity, and they bring students on field and they do like on court, they do an activity. Okay, now here's about learning. Like there's always like an on-court activity in middle school assemblies. And so this on-court activity was basketball. And it was, they had people come down, they had them shoot a free throw, shoot a three-pointer, shoot a half court, like whatever. You see that as like a promotion in a lot of sport, like on-court sports. And so I'm standing there in this dorky bear outfit, and I am not athletic in the slightest. I am not even kind of athletic. And this ball rolls to me, and it hits my feet, and I'm looking down on it. And, it's an entire, our entire school is there. There's probably maybe 900 people in the auditorium or in the gym. And I pick up the ball. I had this thought, I'm like, man, and I felt like it was in slow motion. What if I shot this and swished it? And in the back of my mind, I'm like, you can't swish this. You've never made a three-pointer, ever, let alone in a dorky bear suit. So I just turned around and I just chucked it over my head, and it went in. Like I made it wasn't it was a 3-point, but this backwards 3-point shot, and the crowd went nuts, and it got me hooked. It got me hooked. And so I was also a high school mascot, and then I also mascotted for a couple of charities as well, and then I got really, really lucky. I got really lucky when I applied here at the Indians to just see if I had no idea if they were even hiring for one of their mascots. But the Otto, he's our primary mascot. They were hiring for him, and so I applied, and the guy who had played Otto for maybe 6 years, he had just left, and so they were scrambling because they were, I think, like a month or 2 months away from the season, and so they're like, yes, please, like we'll take you. And I'm like, are we going to do like a tryout? And they're like,
nope.
We'll figure that out later. we need a body. We need somebody in the suit. And fortunately, I had experience and I had fun. And so that started my first season as a minor league mascot or minor league baseball mascot. And then I was a collegiate mascot as well at a school out here in Spokane. It's Eastern Washington University. And then there's a minor league hockey team here as well. They play in the WHL, the Western Hockey League, and I'm also their mascot as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is Eastern Washington the one, is that the one with the red field?
It sure is, yeah.
Okay.
It's much better looking in person, I promise you. On TV, it's the worst. It's so painful to look at on TV, but in person, it's kind of fun. It's kind of different.
It's always better in person. It reminds me of back when the NFL was doing the color rush jerseys, and they had the Bills and the Jets wearing all red and all green, or as I affectionately refer to it as the color blindness game, because if you were red green colorblind, you had a real tough time.
Following where everyone's going. Yeah, it's funny out at Eastern whenever they wear their red jerseys. You can tell the other team is just a little, because our red jerseys blend in with the turf, and you can tell the opposing team is not big. They're not fans of it at all. So I would say, to answer your original question before I started kind of rambling off there, my favorite part about my job is performing. My favorite part about my job is getting into a mascot suit. Fortunately, we have 4 of them. And so on any given day, I can be in any 4 of them. But I love putting on a performance. I love entertaining people, and I honestly love making people laugh. I'm not very funny outside of a mascot suit. I tell really dry, really awful puns.
That's the
That,
best kind.
thank you. I think they're hilarious, and I think maybe it's just it's maybe it's my delivery. Um, but yeah, no, it's just it's a so when I'm inside of a suit, I think I'm pretty funny sometimes.
Well, that makes me wonder. So we had Rockies Fest in January, and
Yeah.
Otto was present at Rockies Fest. Was that you in the Otto suit at Rockies Fest?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Going to Rockies Fest was a blast. I had a great time. It was really fun getting to interact with Dinger as well as interact with Orbit from the Albuquerque Isotopes. It was just great interacting with your fans you never know. You never know if you show up and they're fans from a completely different state for a Major League Baseball team. For all you know, they're gonna look at you and be like, what are you like, why are you here? And so I had zero expectations that I was going to go in there and fans were going to love me or accept me. And then after the end of the day, after end of Rockies Fest, I was just blown away with how wonderful Rockies fans were to me, and just not even just me, but also our entire Indians team that was there at the promotional table that we had. Rockies fans were so kind and interested and inquisitive, and I didn't really run into any like mean people. Like, and you would think that, oh, like, what do you mean running into mean people? Every mascot has the best part about their job and the worst part about their job. And the worst part about their job are mean little kids who just see you as a punching bag. And I was a little worried. I was a little worried, to be honest, that some of these Rockies kids would be like, hey, look, it's like Chuck E. Cheese. If I punch him, I can get away with it. So, but that didn't happen though. So that was good.
What the kids from whenever I saw Otto walking around, the kids loved Otto,
They
which was
did.
really cool, especially for a lot of these kids had probably never seen Otto before because
Mhm.
they're on the younger side. They don't really know about minor league baseball or anything like that. That was
Mhm.
really cool. You say mean little kids though. I always feel like the thing to be more concerned about is mean adults. If you'll recall, a couple of years ago, somebody jumped up onto the dugout and tackled
They
Dinger
were.
during a
Yeah.
game, and
Mhm.
it's like that to me, it's like, why would you even think about doing that?
Yeah, I remember when that happened, and it's always a bummer when fans decide to assault a mascot. I've been assaulted a couple of times. Only once here at the ballpark, but when I was a college mascot, it happened probably once a year.
Oof.
Some fan who had one too many beers and got dared by a couple of his buddies, and it turns into a like, yeah, we'll take a video of it. It will be funny, and it's a whole thing. And people forget like, hey, that's just some person doing their job and in
Yeah.
a very hot human environment. Like, just let them do their job, like whatever. But no, mean adults are actually easy to work with because I Dinger Dinger, I love Dinger. I think he's adorable, he is fun, he is silly, and I'm a little bit different up here with my fans, but whenever I deal with fans that are maybe a little bit unruly or they don't like me, I go into this instant like angst mode. So like as a kid, when my parents said, "Hey, don't do this," in the back of my head, would be like, "No, I'm gonna do this." Like just to show you up. And so when I have fans like they'll like make fun of me or tease me, it's instantly like, oh, I'm gonna pick on you now. I'm gonna embarrass you in front of thousands of people, and it's gonna be awesome. And it never in like a mean way, but like one thing I like to do in auto is I pick my nose because he's a long red nose, and so I'll pick it and then I'll wipe it on someone's face and then I'll run away. And I like doing that, or whenever I can tell when fans aren't responding to being teased. Like to them, they're like, "What are you going to do about it?" Like there's nothing that as a mascot I could actually do that could actually harm, hurt, or insult them. Once I realize that they're in that mode, the best thing to do, and I tell our performers here this all the time, is that you know what's better than a mascot shaming a fan? Everyone around them shaming that fan. And so what I'll do is I'll take off Otto's hat, I'll look real mopey. I'll walk away real sad. I'll pretend like I'm crying, and everyone around them like, "Boo!
What have you done?
Why are you being mean to him?" And it's like, I can always rely on on the public fans shaming, a mean one. It always works.
I think it's really it's a very underrated talent with mascot performers, because a lot of people think, oh, as mascots, they're here to be funny and make people smile and stuff like that. But the ability to heckle is, I think, hugely important. So a couple of years ago, I was at a Dallas Mavericks game in Dallas, and I'm a Denver Nuggets fan, obviously. And so I'm there in my full Nuggets regalia, jersey, hat, everything, and their mascot comes over and like grabs my hat and points at me. He's like, what are you doing here, buddy? What's all this? And like, that's a blast. And that's something where even I, as a visiting fan, can be like, all right, this is funny. This is fun. I'm getting
Yeah.
heckled, but it's not like a mean-spirited way. It's fun. And I think that is a really, really important aspect of all of that. But you brought up the suits, and this was actually a question that one of my friends wanted me to ask: is how do you deal with the heat inside the costume? Because I know that they get very warm.
They do, yeah. So, the great question. So, it really every team does it a little bit differently, and the more south you get, the more the hotter your environment. I mean, it even though we're up in Washington, and most people think that when you hear, oh, I live in Washington, oh, so you must live in Seattle where it rains all the time. Nope, we're on the opposite side of the state, and it rains very little here, very very little here. It's very very dry. We're almost similar to Denver. We're almost up into that mountain arid desert kind of region. And so it does get, I think on average, I think we might get 10 games a season above 95, 5 games above 100. And so, I mean, it's no, Phoenix, Arizona or Orlando, Florida, but it does get warm here. And so for us, most people think like, oh, you must have a fan in there. Fans are unreliable, unfortunately, and like they work for a short time. They work for a short time, but what happens is that so much humidity builds up inside of the mascot head or suit that humidity, no matter how much you try, it's going to affect the wiring. It's going to affect the electrical charge of keeping that fan going. And even if you do have the best, most high tech fan, all fans in some capacity will make noise, and you are so already like your auditory and your visual senses inside of a mascot suit is already slimmed down to the most narrow kind of vision, narrow hearing, that you need everything. And so the sound of a fan can be incredibly distracting, and then even if that fan is working, it's probably not going to work for an entire season. Every suit I've worn, and I think I've worn maybe 18 different mascot suits in my career. Every suit that has included a fan, it either was broken already, or it was about to be broken, or it was so loud that I just turned it off. So outside of a fan, the next thing that performers might use, and you see this more often in Disney World, Disneyland, a lot of more humid climates and humid environments, like one of my favorite mascot performers. She actually got hired to a different team, but she worked for the uh, Daytona Tortugas. She was Sheldon, and she was amazing. She was so good. Watching her on social media was like seeing the funniest performer you've ever seen every single night. And so, but it's in Orlando, Florida. It's like 95% humidity. It's awful there. And so they actually use Ice Vest, and they're actually, and not ice. They're more like a gel. But the problem with Ice Vest is that they work for 30 minutes and then they don't. Ice vests are one of the most dangerous and helpful things a mascot can wear, because once they melt, once they are no longer cooling your body, they start absorbing heat really, really, really quickly. The properties of that gel and that water, they start absorbing it all. So now you're wearing something heavy and hot, and it's making it really dangerous. Then on the other side is that when you wear these ice vests, so say your game is 3 hours long, and you're wearing an ice vest every 30 minutes, and you're changing in and out, in and out, in and out. Similar to how when people go skiing. Have you been skiing before, Evan?
Surprisingly, no.
Okay, so but have you ever played out in the snow?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so whenever you play out in the snow and it's so cold, most people forget that they're incredibly dehydrated, and so they forget to drink water when they're doing winter sports. It's actually a common thing of like when people go skiing, they're like, "Oh, my legs are just always tired." Have you drinking any water today? I'm not thirsty. Yes, you are. It's just so cold, and you're around by so much, moisture. You don't think you are. And so, similar to the ice vest, it's making you think, oh, I'm cool. I don't need that much water. So you stop drinking water. And then more importantly, it's that vest only cools the outside layer of your skin. Internally, your body's still heating up. Your internal organs are still being active. And so I think over the past 25 years, there have maybe been 10 different accounts of mascot performers, whether it's sports or maybe like entertainment, like Disney World, Disneyland, of having heat stroke, heat exhaustion, and I think like one death because of of the heat, but also a direct correlation to these ice vests because they make you think that you can, oh, I can work another 30 minutes. I can push a little bit harder. And then one moment you think you're fine, the next moment someone's shaking you awake and you're in a mat. And it's happened to me once where it got too hot and I passed out in a suit. Unfortunately, I was able to be helped towards our little changing area, but I don't remember getting there. All I remember is I my one of our other performers was slapping me awake and like Aaron, wake up, Aaron, like splashing water, telling me, it's like, Aaron, if you don't wake up in the next like 20 seconds, we're calling 911 because it's heat exhaustion and heat stroke. You don't want to mess with it
Yeah.
because you can go from being completely fine to hospitalized ICU really really quickly. And so yeah. So to answer your question, what we do is that we kind of do what Disney does with their performers is that if you work for 30 minutes, then you take at least 40% to 30% of a break in that manner. So if you work for 40 minutes, then you're taking a 15-minute break. If you work for an hour, then you're taking a 25 to 30-minute break. And because it's essential that your body cools down and that you are watered, hydrated, and you're safe. More and most importantly, safe. But you don't see this in major league sports because when you work in the major leagues in any capacity, you're a pro. You know what you're doing. You normally don't run this issue. But when you see minor league teams that chuck an intern or chuck some random person in a suit, is that, oh, like, hey, we need you out there for 3 hours. And they maybe take one 15-minute break. Well, not only is that unsafe, but then on the other hand, it's really bad show because you want your mascot to be constantly energetic. You want him to be very physical, very active, very funny, very silly. You want him to be engaging. And you can only keep up that energy for so long. And so if I'm out for an hour, but the last 20 minutes of that hour I'm just slumping around, then every single fan that saw me in that last 20 minutes, they're getting a terrible show. And so it's much better for me to mascot for 30 minutes, take a 20-minute break, and then come back out because then I'm at my 100%. I'm at 100% and I'm entertaining you every second that I'm in a suit.
That makes a lot of sense. And it also makes sense that, rather than having like the workaround or the internal built in thing, that really the best way to avoid these issues is just to take breaks and
Yeah.
make sure you're getting hydrated and cooled off before going back out there. And I
Mhm.
can't think of anything that would probably be more disorienting than waking up after passing out while inside a mascot costume.
It wasn't fun. It was a learning experience. It's only happened once. Because after that, it was like, okay, well, I know where my limit is, and that's it. Like, uh, no, but yeah, no, taking breaks is, and even if it's a short break, taking breaks is just immensely helpful.
And that's no matter what job you do. Remember to take your breaks.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true.
Alrighty. We are going to take just a very quick ad break. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Thank you so much for sticking with us through that ad break. I'm Evan, and with me is Aaron Croom of Partner Services and Mascot Coordinator for the Spokane Indians. Aaron, my question for you, we're going to roll into talking a little bit more about the mascots of Spokane Indians. I want to start out with what exactly is a Spokanosaurus, as what Otto is called?
uh, Great question. So, um, officially, Spokanosaurus is an extinct dinosaur that was founded in Spokane by our team. We kind of made up the word, we made up the term. Spokanosaurus is not a real dinosaur, but we like to go with it. So, but in talking actually of how Otto was created and what he is, in 1992, 1993. So before the 92-93 season, the Spokane Indians never had a mascot. We had imagery, and up until and like we earlier in the podcast we talked about how up in after 83 or 84 we stopped using native imagery. So before that we did use native imagery in a very slang, very irresponsible way, and we don't like to mention it, but we did do it. And so in the 1992-1993 season, we never had a mascot before. And this is around the time. And so if you look at across all of mascot sport, like the sports mascots, you look at the very first two mascots because they kind of came about at the same time. And I'm sorry to kind of poo-poo on Penn State. The Penn State Tiger was not a real mascot. It was just some cheerleader wearing a really crappy head. Uh, Real sports mascots really came about whenever mascots were used as entertainment, not just some guy, poor soul on the sideline who just stood there and waved. And you see that with the San Diego Chicken and the Philly Fanatic in the 70s. And it's funny because you actually saw them at the same exact time, almost separately, not really knowing about each other until they did. They both rose to prominence of what mascots can be done. And so like with the San Diego Chicken, he was kind of the father of all mascotting, and a lot of people see him as the father of mascotting. And if you haven't heard the story about the San Diego Chicken, that is so cool. That is so fun because it was just some random college kid who just ran with it, and he made an absolute stamp on all of mascot performers. But then if you look at the Philly Fanatic, and so I actually did a training with the original Philly Fanatic. I'm a shout out to my mentor, my student mentor, David Raymond. He leads a mascot brand company called Raymond Entertainment. They make amazing mascot suits. They train characters. They have mascot boot camp. He helped found the Mascot Hall of Fame in Whitting, Indiana. It's this like 2-3 story fun interactive kids museum. It's beautiful. And but David Raymond was the original Philly Fanatic, and he really how he went about kind of personalizing the Fanatic in the 70s and the 80s brought about everyone else in sports saw that and they thought, oh, we could be doing a lot more. And so notably right after that, you saw some copycats. Like you saw like the Mets attempt their first, like, because technically the Mets, they have the oldest mascots in Major League Baseball. They've had Mr. and Mrs. Met for a long time, but similar to Penn State, it was just some poor soul in a head who waved. But then once the Philly Fanatics started getting popular, you saw the Mets mascots doing more, like going into the crowd, doing on field skits, chucking hot dogs into the stands, like being more silly and fun and a form of entertainment. And then probably from there, you saw in the late 80s, early 90s, the rise of the NBA mascot, which is what you saw in the Suns Gorilla. The Suns Gorilla really created what an NBA mascot is. So, like, because the atmosphere of a baseball game is a little bit more laid back, a little bit more, I'm here to enjoy myself and enjoy the game. You can have mascots that are big, laborious, and funny, and it's still okay. But in the NBA, it's fast paced, it's hardcore. You have these freak athletes who are, 10 feet tall. And so you need a mascot that can represent that kind of energy. And like if you look across all of NBA, the NBA mascot world, you don't really see big, tubby mascots being silly and fun. You see athletic, tumbling, acrobatic mascots that are doing, like for example, you guys live in Denver, so you guys know Rocky's amazing.
Yes.
Rocky is one of the best mascots in all of sports. and I'm sure everyone in Denver has heard, he's the highest paid mascot. He jumps through flaming hoops. He does half court shots from a 50-foot ladder. Like he's amazing. But all of that started with originally the Phoenix Suns gorilla, who in a Phoenix Suns gorilla, like the first time he jumped through a flaming hoop, everyone in NBA basketball were like, "Holy cow, we could be doing more." Like that's insane. And even then, the Phoenix Suns, they even stole the idea of entertainment from the Lakers. And so like the Showtime Lakers of the late '80s, they kind of took on that idea, but then put someone in a gorilla suit and called it good. And then past that, you kind of see in the early 2000s, you see the rise of, if you ask any modern mascot, hey, who's your favorite mascot? There's a very good chance we all have the same answer, and that's Benny the Bull. Benny the Bull is iconic. He's amazing. He is phenomenal. And Benny the Bull, he invented silliness in NBA mascots. You saw him not just dunking and doing half court shots, but you saw him doing skits, and you saw him dressing up, you saw him dancing, you saw him doing all of these amazing things that were going viral on early internet YouTube and early MySpace and Twitter and Facebook. And he was just such a commanding figure in the world of mascots that he set a tone for the next 15-20 years, and it was phenomenal. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting completely off topic, so I do apologize. I
No,
I
no
should have
worries.
I should have warned you. I ramble a little bit, and I don't get to talk about the fun history of mascots a lot, so I'm just kind of getting jazzed over here. Anyway, so back to your original question about Otto the Spokanosaurus. In the '90s, during all of this, and so during all of this, where all of these teams in sports were realizing we can use costume characters to bring another frame of mind of entertainment toward, like, especially minor league baseball, because minor league baseball has always been about fun, has always been about silliness and goofiness. And so when creating a mascot, they are Otto the Spokanosaurus, they realized we can't have a Native American mascot, it won't work. What if we have like a dog? Well, a dog's unoriginal, so like, okay, so maybe we can't do a dog. Well, like, what if we did like a dinosaur? Dinosaurs are scary. Like if you do an actual dinosaur outside of Dinger, I don't know a lot of I don't know a lot of professional sports mascots that are dinosaurs that don't look a little off, or they either don't look like a dinosaur or they're kind of scary. Dinger, like the way Dinger is designed with the big head, the big hooped belly, like the very Barney like Triceratops. It's a very kid friendly mascot. Where dinosaurs, those aren't historically kid friendly. Like they're cool, but they're also terrifying, carnivores. And so we're like, well, what if we stick a dinosaur and a dog and we just put them together? And then so they did, and they're like, well, this looks really weird. Well, what if we stuck the Philly Fanatic, because the Philly Fanatic has a big long nose? We'll just stick a Philly Fanatic nose on it. So they stuck Philly Fanatic nose on Otto. And they're like, well, let's have it be blue. But then it was too blue. It was like, well, let's have it be red. So then they had to be red. And then there was born Otto. If you it our My PR manager Bud, I love him. He's one of my favorite people in our office. He loves to post this old photo of the original Otto suit. It is the most terrifying, most like the first season of Otto. He looked like the most terrifying creature you've ever seen. Like it didn't look good. And it was so bad that after the first season, they scrapped that entire look and they rebuilt it. And now Otto, for the most part, has had a pretty similar look. The only big changes Otto has had is that his ears are a little bit shorter. His nose is just a tad shorter. And for some reason, like other players in baseball, he went through a shorts phase where he wore shorts, and no one, baseball players shouldn't wear shorts. So outside of that, Otto really hasn't changed from his original look.
It's funny because before you pointed it out, I don't think I would have noticed the dog elements in the Otto design, and now I'm looking at it and it's like, oh, I definitely see that now.
Yeah, Otto frequently gets called a dinosaur dog. It's like, hey, you're a dinosaur dog. It's like, you know what? I'll take it. for you little kid, that's probably as much as you can think of. It's that
Yeah,
or
kind
that.
of.
Yeah.
What they should do, because there's no such thing as a Spokanosaurus, you said, is if they ever find a new dinosaur fossil in Spokane,
Yep. Yeah.
you gotta be on top of that. We gotta call it the Spokanosaurus, because
It,
it's kind of the reverse for Dinger, because they did find, while the whole story itself is very overblown because you want to make it a fun mascot story, but they did find Triceratops fossils while constructing Coors Field, and that was sort of the genesis of Dinger. And the coolest thing is, if you go to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, not on public display, but down in the archives, there is a little box with that fossil in it, and it's labeled Dinger, because that is the true thing. Versus the story the Rockies roll with, because it's way more fun and kid friendly, is they found an egg, and in that egg that hatched on opening day at Coors Field was Dinger.
Yep. I've seen that video a couple of times. It's really cool.
And it really is fantastic. And Otto is a really fun design. And like I mentioned earlier, the kids were really loving him. Is there a lot of how popular would you say Otto is, even just in Spokane Indians games, but in the general Spokane community as well? What's the overall popularity of Otto?
So I will admit, I don't want to pat myself on the back too much. I will admit that the Spokane Indians are in a very, very geographically unique area of the country. Most minor league teams, and not like, and not, I'm not talking about like Pioneer or Independent League, but like true AAA, AA, single A minor league teams. Most minor league teams are on average within 3.5, maybe 4 hours away from another professional sports team, and that's like any professional sports team, whether that's hockey, football, basketball, soccer, like whatever it is. They're usually close enough to a major league sports team. And so because of that, minor league mascots aren't the most popular in their communities, because like, let's say in Denver. So in Denver, you guys have Dinger, you guys have Rocky, you have the Avalanche's mascot is he's a bulldog, wears a chain, he's really cool.
You're thinking of Bernie, our Burmese
Bernie.
mountain dog, but
Yes.
I must interject justice for Howler, the original Avalanche mascot, who was a Yeti, who I miss very dearly. I love Bernie. I think Bernie is fantastic. Additional shout out to Little Burn, the child-sized version of Bernie that we wheel out on Kids Day at Avs games.
Mhm.
But man, I miss Howler. I loved Howler.
I've never heard of Howler.
You've never heard of Howler? Oh,
I,
that just
I
makes me
know a lot
sad.
about mascots. I always love when I hear about mascots I haven't heard about. So that I'll have to look him up.
He was the original Avs mascot. That's why, because the Avs jerseys originally had the Bigfoot, the Yeti foot on
Yes, yeah,
on the
I've seen that
shoulders,
yeah.
and that's the Howler foot.
Okay, I will have to look that up. But like, so in Denver, I think the closest minor league team, I think they're independent now, but it's like the Grand Junction something.
They are now the Jackalopes.
The Jackalopes. Okay, so are they a collegiate baseball summer bat team now?
So we do have a couple of collegiate summer bat teams. The one closest to me is the Boulder Collegians that are in Boulder, Colorado.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, Colorado does not have any minor league baseball anymore.
Yeah.
It's a real bummer. I would say the closest in vicinity to Denver proper
Mhm.
is the newest of the bunch. That'd be the Northern Colorado Owls, which used to be the Orem Owls out in Utah.
Yes, yeah.
And then sadly, the Colorado Springs Sky Sox are no more, but they became the Rocky Mountain Vibes. And then
Yes, that's the s'more, right?
yes, and
Yep.
I do think he is fantastic.
Yes.
And then the Grand Junction Jackalopes used to be the rookie ball affiliate, the Grand Junction Rockies, and now they're the Grand Junction Jackalopes, and they just completed that full rebrand. And they're all independent teams. Those three teams are all what is it, Pioneer League teams, I think.
Yes, yeah, the Pioneer League teams. So yeah, so there are a lot of, there used to be minor league affiliates, and there are still collegiate, teams there, or collegiate summer bat teams there, and so most likely with most minor league teams, they're too close to a major league team for their mascots to be insanely popular. Spokane is geographically landlocked in a way that we are an entire mountain range away from the Mariners, from the Seahawks, from the Sounders. We are 3 hours away from the Tri-City Dust Devils. We are 3 hours away from the Missoula Paddleheads. We are 5 hours away from the Seahawks. And so because of that, and because like during the summer, we are outside of the new USL soccer team that just started, I think 2 weeks ago here in Spokane. We are the only form of sports entertainment in Spokane over the last 100 during the summer. So because of that, our mascots are insanely popular. So, and I will say, to pat myself on the back, we do an immense amount of community outreach appearances. And so I think just if you could guess how many community events that we go to per year, how many do you think we go to?
264.
Wow. Okay. You were the first person to give me a real, sincere answer about that. Most of them are like 50. I'm like, 50? What do you mean 50? Last year we did 375.
Whoa, okay. So
Yeah.
that's more than one a day.
Yes. Our weekends during the spring, like I think each weekend in April, we have, I think, 10 events per weekend. And I mean, but it's like there's only so many weekends in April, and a lot of them are little league things, or they're spring 5Ks, or they're birthday parties or weddings, or like there's only so many weekends in a year, and so normally, we don't really have appearances on Monday, Tuesdays, or Wednesdays, but Thursday through Sunday we are pretty busy. And now the nice thing is that because we have such a large mascot team, we're able to send Doris this way, Ribby out here, Otto over here, where other teams might have to tell other events no because, hey, we only have one suit, we only have one performer, and both of you, all three events are saying, hey, can you come visit us at 10 a.m. on a Saturday? Unfortunately, you kind of have to pick and choose because we have so many characters. We can spread ourselves out to our own success. So because of that, Otto does the most amount of appearances. He visits nearly every school in Spokane at least twice a year. Especially our flagship appearances are National Read Across America Week and Dr. Seuss Day, and that's in early March where Otto visits. I think this past year we visited 13 schools in 5 days, and we go to schools. We have Otto will reenact a Dr. Seuss book or any book, or there's a couple dinosaur books out there that are popular. And he'll just engage with kids, promote reading, promote that engagement. And for us, what we're really aiming for is that if we go to your kid's classroom, that's gonna make his day. That's the coolest thing is that our mascot came into your kid's classroom, high-fived all of them, got an autograph, got a photo, and that kid's now gonna go home and tell his parents, hey, I saw Otto today at the Indians. And so now they're going to be thinking, oh, the Indians. Oh yeah, it's our form of kind of brand marketing and brand outreach of that. We want to start by affecting the families here in Spokane. And so the number of times I've had fans, I've heard it, I've experienced it, and I've seen it where they'll come up, oh, hey, this is Otto. Like he leans down to his kid. This is Otto right here. I remember when I got an autograph from him when I was a kid. And then their grandpas with us. I remember getting an autograph when I was a kid. And so our mascots are just more so than than many minor league teams, just because we're insanely lucky. Like we work hard, but we're very lucky that we don't have any competition up here. These kids have not seen any other mascot. Like when they think of sports mascot, they think of us because they've never been to. I think maybe they've been to one Mariners game, maybe one Seahawks game, or like the Spokane Chiefs, the hockey team here in Spokane. They might think of them, but outside of that, when you think of mascots in Spokane, you think about the Spokane Indians, and so we are definitely lucky in that sense.
That's awesome, especially because it is sort of an untapped market. I guess not untapped because you're tapping the market, but it is a really good thing to take advantage of up there, and it's also cool that you can, really impress upon generations of families at this point because Otto's almost as old as I am at this point. I just turned 33, so Otto came about when I was just a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And And that's the thing, is like when I was a kid, I remember Dinger more than any other mascot. And so that
Mhm.
really does make an impression up there. So that's really, really cool.
Oh yeah, and our biggest selling, or not selling point, but kind of our company motto, our mission statement is family friendly, affordable entertainment. We really sincerely believe in providing affordable family entertainment here in Spokane, and that does start with part of that can start with our mascots and ensuring that we create a family environment so that when you come back every single year, your kids like our mascots, and then when you come back as an adult, your kids then like our mascots. And so, and it's part of that overall branding and marketing plan that if we can use our mascots to give you an experience. And so this is something that uh, in mascot marketing, you see this being implemented more and more and more and more and more as you see the popularity of sports mascots through TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and social media as a whole. You can start to understand why mascots are having an impact, like the Duolingo mascot. Like he's hilarious. Like I don't know a single, like one of my friends who hasn't sent me a TikTok from the Duolingo mascot getting, doing something really dorky and silly. And the reason being is that a billboard can only do so much. Radio advertisement can only do so much. TV advertisement, a social media graphic can be easily scrolled through. Those are all very quick and easy and fast forms of marketing that just kind of start and go and then you're done. But a physical in-person experience where this mascot who represents the team that you love, especially for us, our players, we love our players. But at the end of the day, the likelihood that our players are going to be that we have a 30% retention rate on players year to year is minimal because it's minor league baseball. If our players are really good, we're not keeping them for a month. I know last year we started out with one of the most talented teams we've ever fielded, and half our team was gone by mid-May because they're the most talented players. They all went to Hartford, and then from Hartford they went to Albuquerque, and so because of that, the fan identity and how they buy into your team and how they buy into feeling represented by your team, especially in minor league sports, it can't be through your players because we only maybe get them for a month, maybe five. And so for us, our mascots are here year after year after year. And so for us, when we send our mascots out in the community, we know that experience of you getting a high five, a photo, an autograph, some Otto or Ribby or Doris making you laugh, that is so much more like valuable as a piece of marketing and advertisement than a billboard, a social media post, a TV ad, anything, because it's something that will actually stick with you.
Definitely. Aaron, unfortunately, I would love to keep going forever because this is all really interesting, and I had some additional questions, but maybe we
Yeah.
will be able to have you back on the show at some point because this has been really, really cool. But we got to start winding things down. So just a
Absolutely.
rapid fire one.
Yeah. I
Are
do
there any?
apologize for rambling. I get passionate.
No, this has been awesome, and I'm really, really grateful to have you on. Any promotions or anything that you are really looking forward to for the 2024 season out in Spokane?
Ooh, okay, rapid fire. Yes. So, some of our great promotions that we're having this year is that our introduction of the 9 campaign alternate identity. It's our King Carl campaign. We're representing Carl Maxey, who is a civil rights activist and lawyer here in Spokane. Our King Carl identity is amazing. He has a cool boxing fist with a crown. Then we joined the COPA conversation this year and being Cafecitos de Spokane, with a cute little coffee cup brand. It's really, really fun. It's cool. It's very different color wise. We've never worn bright yellow jerseys before, so that's going to be interesting. But I love them. I think they're my favorite jerseys I've seen in a long time. And the hats are fun because they're yellow and orange.
They're great.
Um, oh, they're awesome. And then in 1974, Spokane hosted the World's Fair. They're the smallest city to ever host a World's Fair. We don't know why they picked us, but they did. And this year is the 50th year or 50-year anniversary of the Spokane Expo World's Fair. And so we're going to be doing a couple promotions, promoting and advertising that. We haven't released it yet. But we'll be releasing that probably over the next week or two. But we will be doing something to kind of tag along with what the city is also doing to celebrate that 50-year anniversary. And then probably the big kicker, we didn't really touch on this because we just kind of talked about Otto, but Ribby, the red band trout, is definitely. I hate to say this because even though I actually introduced Ribby and I was the first performer in Ribby, I am an auto performer at heart, but I love Ribby. I perform in Ribby all the time. But Ribby's our most popular mascot. Fans go nuts. He does this little shake during his intro, and the fans, you see grown adults, 45-year-old people screaming at the top of their lungs because they love our fish mascot. He is fun. He's engaging. He looks so good. Like we even talked about like next year budgeting to have him come to Rockies Fest with Otto, and I guarantee you Rockies fans will love Ribby. He's the best. But we are doing.
I adore Ribby.
Oh, Ribby's the best. I
He
love
is
him.
one of my favorite mascots in all of professional sports. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
I got in some hot water with Otto on social media because during Rockies Fest, I was like, well, where's Ribby? How come Ribby couldn't come?
Hey, no, we all love Ribby. Ribby is awesome, and he's absolutely my coworkers constantly tease me of like, hey, how do you feel about being the second best mascot? I'm like, guys, I'm literally Ribby all the time. It's like we have 4 mascots. It's part of a whole program, and we have a whole team of them. None of them are any better or any worse than the other. They're all part of it. And then they're like, so you're jealous? I'm like, ah, shut up. But we are, for the first time in over 15 years, we are doing a bobblehead giveaway. We never do bobblehead giveaways, but we're doing a bobblehead giveaway, and it's a Ribby bobblehead. And
that's going to be a sellout game.
Oh, easily. We even had meetings. We're like, okay, so do we need to increase security to make sure that fans aren't like fighting in the parking lot for bobbleheads? Because he does, I'm sure you've seen this on social media. He does this little shake thing, and fans love it. And so with the bobblehead, it looks like he's doing the shake.
Yeah.
And fans are going to go nuts. Like when our single game tickets went on sale, historically, when single game tickets go on sale, the 4th of July game is usually the one that's kind of like purchased pretty quickly. A lot of families around here have traditions of coming out here on July 4th. That was almost rivaled by Ribby Bobblehead giveaway night. So it's going to be a madhouse that day. But yeah,
I can't say I blame people because I'm immediately like, I got to get my hands on one of those.
I know, yeah. So like the promotions coming up, definitely the Copa games, the King Carl 9 nights, as well as the Ribby bobblehead. We have Storybook Princess nights that are super popular. We have Grandparents' Day, which we're really looking forward to. We're gonna get a whole bunch of cute little old people out here throwing out the first pitch, and I'm looking forward to that because we normally do like a Mother or Father's Day game, but we don't have games on either, so we're gonna do Grandparents' Day in the middle and call it good. And then obviously the Marvel Heroes of the Diamond games are always super fun because we get the fun jerseys. We have the shield logo for the Spokane Indians, and we'll most likely get a really cool superhero character out here. Last year or two years ago, we had Iron Man, then we had the Hulk. Last year we planned to have Spider-Man, but then that game actually got smoked out, unfortunately. And then we also have Black Panther, and they're always huge hits. Kids come dressed up as superheroes, and it's a blast.
Well, one year you'll have to get Cap for me because he's my favorite. Captain America.
Captain America. Oh yes, yep. Captain America is my favorite too. I actually on those Marvel nights, we have to be careful with our branding and how we do things with Marvel. We have minor league baseball has agreements with Marvel and Disney of what we can and can't do, and one of them is dressing up too similarly to characters in Marvel Entertainment, and so we've kind of stretched and towed that line, and I've had Otto dress up as Captain America a couple of times.
Well, I am looking forward to all of those. Unfortunately, I'm not out in Spokane, but I'd love to get out there at some point. Avista Stadium is a beautiful ballpark. The Indians are awesome. You can follow the Spokane Indians on Twitter at Spokane Indians. You can also follow Otto and the other mascots on Twitter at Otto_Indians. Are there any social medias or anything that you'd like to promote?
No, I mean, outside of just following Spoken Indians on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook, or our mascots do have a Twitter, an Instagram, a TikTok, and a Facebook as well. Our Instagram is a little bit more popular than our other platforms, just because the photo and video formats fit a little better. But
Oh, I
uh,
definitely get that.
yeah, but yeah, no. If you want to follow us on Instagram, that'd be great.
And you can watch select Spokane Indian games as part of your MLB.TV subscription. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the first year where a majority of Spokane home games are going to be broadcast this year,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
is really exciting because this is, I always say this is as good a year as any to get into minor league baseball. But
Mm-hmm.
being able to watch the Indians is going to be a treat for a lot of fans, and hopefully spread some of that fandom around. Aaron, thank you so much for joining me today. This was an absolute delight. I would love to have you back on the show.
Hey, I would love to have for that. I'd love for you to have me. I had a blast. It was great talking to you. I get real excited talking about my job, and I really love it.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to facilitate that. Next time, we will have to talk a little bit more about Ribby and some of the ones that don't get as much spotlight. I feel like Doris and Casey don't get as much spotlight. And then
Oh yeah.
at some point, there's
Oh
got to be a conversation about Recycle Man.
trust. Oh, I could talk another 45 minutes about our other three mascots, and uh, especially I love Doris. Doris is a wonderful mascot. I think she is fantastic. There's not enough female mascots in sports, and we're lucky to have one. And Casey's fun. I helped design Casey, so
Oh,
that
that's
was kind of
awesome.
yeah, that was kind of a pet project of mine to get that suit kind of made. And Recycle Man is a wonderful conversation, and the performer that performed as Recycle Man is one of my closest friends.
Yeah, it's not often that you have a team as rich with excellent mascots like you do the Spokane Indians, and it's been an absolute treat to have you, Aaron. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Folks, you can follow me at Evan_Lang27 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Rocky Mountain Rooftop on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKYMTN Rooftop. Aaron, have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us. And everyone listening, thank you for listening. Farewell.
You have a good day.